All in favor?
Aye.
Into item 3, approval of minutes. We don't have the minutes to review, so I'm going to ask for a motion. Do I need a motion to postpone those, or we just postpone those to the next meeting? Just put them on the next meeting, if that's okay, gentlemen. We'll do that. Okay, moving on to the next item, public hearing. We have a public hearing to brief the community on the town's comprehensive growth and development plan. Philip, would you like to give us a discussion or an explanation on that before we open up the public comment section?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So every 5 years, we go through the exercise of updating the town's comprehensive plan. The Georgia Planning Act requires every municipality prepare, adopt, maintain, and implement one, compliant with minimum standards established by the Georgia Department of Community Affairs. And it is a prerequisite for us to have qualified local government status, QLG status. We are very heavily dependent on QLG status. This is what allows us to get pave our roads with state funding, receive a lot of state aid. It also allows us to be MS4 certified, which is which is why we have Jake, and being able to do our stormwater program, manage that locally so that we have higher oversight locally of stormwater and environmental items. The comprehensive plan was last updated in 2022. The QLG deadline is June 30th of 2027, so a year from the end of next month. And that is the adoption date, not a submittal date. So we're going to have things to Department of Community Affairs and the Atlanta Regional Commission well before that. And so a draft plan will probably be completed probably about 4 months before that time. So the purpose, we require a public hearing to open the planning process. So that's what's happening here, and that's what will happen at the town council meeting next week. And it's to brief the community on the process used to develop the plan, identify opportunities, public participation, things like that. So just going through the planning process, just so that everybody is aware, the 2027 update will address the following elements, each required under DCA standards. And that is a community goals, a needs and opportunities section, a community work program, broadband services element, land use element, and transportation element. So we can, I'll, over the course of this update process, be delving into what each of these, the specifics of each of these components of the plan. But community goals, needs and opportunities is essentially a large SWOT analysis that we do. The community work program is essentially the town's capital improvement element that we prepare, showing our large expenditures and capital projects that we'll be doing in a 5-year period. And then the broadband services element, something that is required for every Georgia municipality. It's very brief. It's usually only a paragraph because Tyrone has broadband service in pretty much every location. But we're going to develop a steering committee with representation from town council, the DDA, and the planning commission. So Jeff is going to serve as representative of the planning commission. Of course, I will continue to be bringing things to this body over the course of the comprehensive planning process as well. So y'all will be one of, overall, one of the committees that will be guiding the comp plan. And we're going to have 12 members of that steering committee. So it's not going to be a particularly large group. We try to limit that just for the ability to kind of keep things together and be collaborative. We so far have 38 applicants to be on that steering committee, or 40 applicants to be on that steering committee. So we'll have to filter through, but we want to make sure that that representation comes from all corners of the town, people that have varying interests in development, that have some varying backgrounds, so that we get a good cross-section of input from that steering committee, since they'll be very integral. We'll also then open up with a community-wide survey, and that survey will be open for about 5 months. So we'll have a series of probably some surveys, as well as multiple public engagement and input events. So we're going to try and bundle most of those public engagement events with town events. So you'll see a tent up that's going to be a town tent. We'll have some representatives from hopefully Planning Commission, the DDA, the steering committee that will be at that tent be able to guide people through the process, be able to solicit input from people on what they want to see, what values they have for the town. I imagine that we don't get too much, grand variance from, update to update as to where people want to take the town. But we do get a little bit more refined ideas as the town grows and matures, and we get good input from that. Tyrone has had record attendance in our comp plan attendance in the past, which is good from a public engagement perspective. I think in 2017, not in 2022, but in 2017, we had more total survey responses and more public participation than, because at that time ARC was helping us with this and they were helping another city, but we had more than Alpharetta, which is many, many, many times our size. So we have great public participation rates in the town. We like to reference that whenever we talk about the plan, and especially when some citizens are wondering why we do one thing or another. We try to say that we have, pretty high fidelity confidence in our comp planning process because we have such, good participation of public input during that time. An informal ARC pre-submittal review will happen at the 70% time frame, probably around November of this year. We will actually have a draft plan that'll be ready to go to ARC. And then we'll have a formal transmittal in February of '27. A second required public hearing will happen prior to that transmittal, and then, of course, council will have an official adoption of the plan at the end of the period before June 30th of '27. So notice of this hearing was published consistent with our locally adopted zoning procedures as well as for the council. That's what DCA requires. And staff recommends that we continue and proceed with the development of the comprehensive plan and see how it all goes. No vote is required tonight, just open the floor for public hearing for people to comment on whatever they wish regarding the comp plan.
Okay, thank you very much. So we will move to the public comment section. This is officially a public hearing. Normally, public hearings have those sections speaking in favor of a change and others speaking in opposition to a change. We don't have that type of situation tonight. It's just open for public comment for anyone wishing to come forward and speak on the subject of our town's comprehensive plan. If you would like to come forward and speak, please do so. We have a form on the podium. We ask that you take that and fill it out and give it to staff before you leave. So with that said, if anyone would like to come forward and speak, the floor is open. Good evening.
I am Stacy Warrior Williams. My family and I live in the Southampton subdivision. We've been here about 8 years now and moved here because it's such a quaint city, town, and just hoping that during the comprehensive surveys, people will, I'm looking forward to more family-friendly ideas, restaurants, things to bring the town together. Truett plays football at Sandy Creek. They were won the
They were.
championship. And it puzzled me that our town didn't get more involved. And so I'm not pointing fingers. I'm a resident here, so I said, Stacey, you got to roll your sleeves up and put in some work also. But being a small town, I was quite disappointed that there was not more community involvement. And so we're looking and excited to win another championship. But whatever, just not football. The kids
Well, they're
are
good
our
in
future.
basketball too.
Absolutely. And that's why we moved to this area because of Sandy Creek. And there's so many opportunities. Parents want to be involved. I think many of us are just trying to figure out where do we go? What do we need to do? So I'm here. I've decided I'm going to attend more meetings. I work at the state capitol, and so
God bless you.
thank you. I work in the House of Representatives, so I understand the importance of involvement. So I can't just talk the talk. I'm going to be more involved. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak tonight? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing and ask for commission comments or questions on the comprehensive plan at this point.
Yeah, Philip, just one question. I think you said that we had about 40 people interested in being part of the citizen involvement in the comprehensive plan.
Yeah,
work
the
that's coming
steering
up?
committee, yes.
Okay. Is it normal for us to have a pretty good number there? I think you said you got to get it down to 12, right?
We have to whittle that down to 12. What we've done in the past, because we do typically get more requests to be on the steering committee than we can accommodate. So we have a process where those people that want to be more heavily involved, instead of just saying to those people that they didn't make the steering committee, just submit a survey, we will usually do individual calls, or I've before in the past met up like for coffee and done a long form interview with them where we just discuss at length some town topics of what they would like to kind of like what their interests are, what their thoughts are about the town, and what direction they want to go. So usually there's not. This is a pretty good number for the steering committee, I think, but it's pretty consistent about what we've gotten in the past. So if you subtract those 12 people from that 38, that's still a pretty manageable number of people to do a long form interview with. We don't usually want to do more than 20 or 30 long form interviews because it takes a lot of time. But if we could do around 20 to accommodate those people and make sure that we're getting a little bit more detail from those that want to give more detail, then that's what we usually do there.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Philip, to piggyback on that question, the 12, how did you arrive at that number of 12?
So it's really between 10 and 12. We may, if there's somebody that really, really, really wants to be on that committee, and I actually don't consider the town council, the planning commissioner, and the DDA representative that'll be there against that 12. So really there'll be 15 or so people.
Okay.
And the main reason for that is that group, you want to have a little bit of a collaborative environment. You want to be able to have people have an opportunity to speak and get through items and have discussion. Any more than that number approximately is just a little unwieldy to manage sometimes. It's not an exact science to it, but we just kind of set a number because really it's going to be 15 with those 3 representatives from each of our boards and council. So it's just a manageable number that we can get in a room and go around the table and have discussions for or with.
My second question, I remember when I was on the steering committee back in 2022, ARC was heavily involved.
Yes.
From what I understand from you now, that is not going to be the case as much as then? Like ARC is not going to be as heavily involved as they were back then?
That's correct. ARC is going to be providing a support role to me with some data analytics and things like that. So they will still be involved, but in the background. In previous years, ARC essentially footballed the whole plan. So we were assigned a project manager from ARC, and they took together, they took on the assembly of the plan, the drafting of the narrative language, after they put out the surveys, consolidated that information. ARC is very tight on their availability to do that. They usually do that for communities that are small or don't have the staff. So, I mean, we qualified for that, and we still technically kind of qualify for that, or the resources to put together a large plan. We do have the resources to, and expertise to do that between myself and hiring a consultant. We have the budget for that.
Okay.
So we are going to have a public engagement consultant that puts us through that most intensive and heaviest part of the planning process. Katie Quattlebaum is her name. You'll see her in here perhaps for a couple of meetings. She's with Elevating Missions Consulting, and she does a lot of public engagement type work. And she knows how to, assemble stuff from the surveys and help filter and choose people for the steering committee, which ultimately will get approved by council. That steering committee is not just approved by staff. Council will ratify that steering committee. So Yes, ARC has requested that if you have the means to do at least some of the plan in-house, that they're very tight on their availability, and that if we used them, we would be pushing our plan later in the year. Their availability, we'd be putting that plan together in a very short period of time, and so some elements of the plan, particularly the public engagement, may feel rushed. And I just did not want that to happen for us. I wanted us to be able to go through this process and not feel rushed in any capacity. So we had the money to do private consulting for public engagement, and that's where we're going this year.
So you don't anticipate any problems with getting the word out, getting the messaging out?
No, we've put in a budget. In fact, I've increased our postage budget for this year because I think we're going to do 2 full townwide mailers, which can actually be kind of expensive. So we're going to do 2 full townwide mailers. We're going to have multiple HOA meetings this year that are different from previous years. So I'll actually go to HOA clubhouses. We'll probably do 5 or so of those meetings. We'll have 5 or 6 public engagement meetings. And then, of course, the steering committee will meet almost monthly during the course of the public engagement process. So.
All right, thank you.
Other questions? None, we'll move on. Next item, under new business, consideration to approve a plat with conditions for a 2.62 acre property with parcel number 0736-011 at property address 541 Sonoya Road from applicant agent Ashley Dickey. Philip.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the next item before you is a consideration of a plat approval, again, for a 2.62 acre tract at 541 Sonoya Road. The current zoning of the property is R12. To the north is R18 property and AR property. To the south is zoned R12. To the east is R18, and to the west is R12 and AR, agricultural residential. So Ms. Ashley Dickey has submitted a preliminary plat requesting approval to divide this tract into 2 lots, being Lot 1 and Lot 2. Lot 1 would be 1.5 approximately 1.6 acres, and Lot 2 would be just over an acre. And it's proposed as a little bit of a flag lot with Sonoya Road. This plat request is going to have a couple of things in it, so I'll just try and make sure I'm clear about the conditions that we're requesting for this plat. These would be conditions that would be placed on the plat to prevent it from being recorded until these conditions were enacted. The first is that the existing barn on the property is non-compliant with having an accessory structure on an individual property on that newly created lot. So the barn would need to be removed prior to recording of the plat. And I think they're actually in the process of tearing down that barn. The applicant is not here tonight, but they did relay to me that they are in the process of getting that barn removed anyway. The second is that the existing dwelling on Lot 1 encroaches into the required 80-foot front building setback from Sonoya Road. This is classified as a minor thoroughfare here. Normally, R12 zoning has a 55-foot setback. In this circumstance, the house is 56 feet from the road, but Sonoya Road, being a minor thoroughfare, has an 80-foot setback that pushes those homes a little further from the road because the road is more intense and separation from the road becomes more important for homes. So the applicant has submitted a variance request. Their request is limited to the exterior footprint of the home, which is an encroachment of 23 feet, just simply. The preliminary plat includes a note that no future additions to the exterior of the home may extend further into the 80-foot building line in any direction. So I'm going to try and pull up the actual plat here. Okay. So you can see here that the property that they're looking to create here has the home situated within the 80-foot setback for Sonoy Road. In fact, the surveyor have asked them to reflect this. They have, oh, I'm sorry, yes, this is correct. This is the 80-foot setback here. So this portion of the home is inside that setback. For the purposes of the plat tonight, the request is that the property be, the plat be approved with the condition that A, the barn be removed prior to recording, and B, that a variance be granted on Lot 1 that would make this setback encroachment conforming. So a variance be granted on that property. So the plat could not be recorded until that variance was completed. If the variance is not completed, then the plat could never be recorded because the town would not sign that plat. They requested as part of their variance request, which is a little separate from the item tonight, but is, a continuation of what we'll see. They requested it via a meets and bounds description around the home. We have done this before in the past, but another valid option would be to grant a simple variance request that goes just the 23 feet to the front of the home. So going back, in terms of compatibility with the future development map and the comprehensive plan, the property is going to be retaining its R12 zoning. So, and the lots that are proposed meet the minimum acreage requirements of R12. So this is compatible with the estate residential character area. R12 zoning is compatible with that. And it would be compatible with all the plans as long as a future variance was requested on the property. The same thing with our ordinance compatibility. As long as that variance is granted, then it could be considered compatible with our ordinance. Again, they are not preparing, or they're not proposing anything that would expand the non-conforming nature of the house or the property. So that's kind of the main reason why we're considering the variance before them, because otherwise they would not be able to use their property as others are able to use a property zoned R12, that's the acreage that they have. The staff does recommend approval with the conditions listed, and I'm available for any questions. I don't think we still don't have the applicant here tonight, but they should be present at the variance hearing.
Comments or questions on this?
Bill, that house has been there a moment, hasn't it?
Yes, that's why the property is currently conforming, or it's non-conforming, but it's legally non-conforming, is because that house has existed prior to R12 zoning having that.
Bill, just for the record, could you kind of explain the legally non-conforming?
Yes, so legally, and I'll let Patrick jump in there.
I just want to, when we say non-conforming, that means legal. If it's not legal, then it's not non-conforming. Non-conforming has that legal status baked into it. It's sometimes what we refer to as grandfathered. It just means that this condition existed before whatever regulation came on the books to make it not conforming. If that makes sense.
Okay.
If that sort of condition arises after the regulation is on the books, then it's illegal, just period. We don't use non-conforming to refer to that at all. It's just illegal.
Okay.
I'm adding a word there.
But
I'm
no,
adding
yeah,
legally when it shouldn't be added, but yeah.
Okay. So what we're proving, or what's before us tonight, is not the variance, though.
That is correct. The consideration tonight is to conditionally approve the plat such that a variance is applied, and if granted on Lot 1, the plat could then be recorded.
Thank you.
And the issue with the plat is that the 2.5 acre, roughly 2.5 acres that were subdivided to make two separate lots.
Yeah, so the variance would actually be pursued on this Lot 1. The variance would not be pursued on this back lot. The variance would be pursued on Lot 1, and if it were granted, then council would be granting a variance on, contingent upon this particular plat being recorded and for this particular condition. And the reason we do that in that order is if we granted a variance now, the subsequent splitting of the lot would change the lot. They would lose their variance essentially. So why we do it in this order, and it seems a little complicated, it seems a little, rote, but we want to make sure that they have a good paper trail and that this is not something that could be challenged later. And we have a solid foundation for the granting of what we're talking about for them and for us.
Questions? Clear on what's being asked?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So I will ask for a motion, and this will be a motion based on the plat.
I make a motion to approve the plat number 0736-011 with staff recommendations that the existing barn will be demolished and all debris will be removed from the site, and the plat not to be signed or submitted for recording until a setback variance for the existing dwelling on Lot 1 has been granted by the mayor and town council.
That's perfect, sir.
I can read.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion. Is there a second? All right, have the second. Any further discussion? None. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on to staff comments.
None at this time. We're working on the comp plan. We're moving forward with things. Good to go. I'm available after the meeting for any questions, any questions that anybody has on any topic in
Phil,
town.
do you have a date? What are you shooting for as far as getting this committee together?
Well, so council's going to approve this in June. So we would basically have I think it's going to be the second meeting in June. So the second Thursday in June, council will ratify the committee, and we'll have our meeting very shortly thereafter, probably the next week, we'll have our first meeting.
Already started there. I'll move further into commission comments or questions. None there?
You're not going to ask about the post office?
I'm not.
Oh, well, we did put out a notice. They say that they are opening in, I think it's July. We got some sort of confirmation from the post office that they're opening in
Did they
July.
say what year?
Is that 26 or? Thank you.
So they actually said they're opening.
Wow.
Said a few times, though.
Yeah, that's.
They've said that a few times, but they've given us a very specific notice that they are opening. Town of Tyrone. I'm sorry, Monday, June 1st,
What?
2026.
2026.
Wow.
Whoa.
Whoa, that's next week.
Yes.
That is next week.
Monday.
That's,
Wow.
that's what we were told.
Have some kind of ceremony for that.
Yes.
We've been waiting so long.
Wow. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good
That's even
news.
better.
Anybody want to place bets?
No. No.
No kidding.
Another question for you, Philip. How is the roundabout, when is that supposed to be wrapped up?
So our end date for the contract is September. So we had a long contract period. That's for everything to be wrapped up, our final punch list, the landscaping, everything. It's obviously open now in terms of, like, you're able to make the traffic circle movement right now. But September is the complete closeout date. But we'll be anticipating landscaping and things to be going in in June, I think, June and July. You'll start to see things come together. We've put together, they're installing lighting. We're going to be putting landscaping. There will be a retaining wall sign that goes in the middle of the roundabout that kind of welcomes people to the town. It'll say Town of Tyrone on it. And then we're awaiting actually the apron that you see that goes around. It's the traversable island apron that goes in right around the center dirt area of the roundabout. That and some areas on the other side are going to be cobblestone, so granite cobblestone. So we're waiting that to be installed here shortly as well. It'll be a pretty looking roundabout. I think we'll be proud of it when it's done. It'll be
Now,
very
with
nice.
Arrowwood recently reopening,
Mhm.
have you gotten any comments or complaints about going into the roundabout coming down Arrowwood? Because it's kind of a rough,
Yes.
Going to close it down again to?
There
pave
might be
that at
some
any point?
temporary lane closures while they do the final paving and smoothing
Yeah.
out of that area, but they're not gonna completely shut it down again. It'll just be a temporary lane closure,
Okay.
one lane at a time, most likely.
'cause it's kind of rough getting into the roundabout from Arrowwood.
Yeah.
Yes.
You got an ATV?
Well, that's what you almost need. My little truck, my little 75 truck,
Oh.
Datsun, I had to put
It's
it in.
rough.
Yeah, it was rough getting up that little.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, but,
Well,
okay. But overall, I'm glad to see it. I mean, traffic is
Oh,
moving.
it is excellent.
It's moving.
yeah, we're happy with it. Then, of course, the next intersection, everybody, points out, now that traffic goes through that intersection quickly, there's a little bit more stack up at the next intersection. We're very much aware of that. That is the next intersection that we have set to do improvements on. So the idea is that we would have a traffic light at that location. We've talked about another roundabout there, but that close to the railroad tracks would be very complicated. So we do know, we have plans for that. We've already done traffic studies. We know that a light is warranted. And we're actually awaiting that transportation improvement grant that we applied for after the LCI was done to do that intersection along with the large, beautification and streetscaping project downtown. But we are aware of that intersection being next problem, so to speak.
Plan for if you put a stoplight there, how you gonna have to put a stop to the traffic before the railroad tracks, or how will that work? Because
Yeah, it's called signal preemption. You coordinate signal preemption with the railroad crossing. We'll actually also have signal preemption in coordination with the Highway 74 GDOT light as well. So
Okay.
we're gonna have a communication relationship between those three as part of that project, most likely.
won't get stacked up because one light's green, the other one's red, and.
Can't guarantee that something won't get stacked up there, especially with the train, but
like happens
we
on
will,
Highway 54
we will be
features.
coordinating that as much as possible, yeah. The idea is that traffic really, if the train is blocking the tracks, traffic should not be stopping and waiting for the train, especially if you're on the other side of the intersection. People, I don't think, realize can make a left on Sonoya Road and get on the exit ramp or get on the on-ramp, make their U-turn, get on 74 and keep moving. And even, continue on to Tyrone Road. We need to start making some more posts about that or communication on that to keep traffic moving. Because that's what should continue to happen when the train is blocking the tracks.
Okay, thank you.
One other question, the buildings east, what's the group?
East Group, yeah.
Are they providing the town with any updates on the buildings? Because it looks like they're pretty much complete.
They are, we're awaiting some final, we're awaiting some final punch list items from them. They're pretty antsy about wanting to get tenant suite finishes in those buildings. That first building, they're gonna be doing 2 tenant suites in those, well, they'll ultimately be doing 3, but they've got pending applications to finish out 2 of those suites in that first building for future tenants. So, we're just awaiting some punch list items that we need to see. The multi-use path in the back needs some work. It's mostly done, and I'm happy to actually schedule a field trip with any of y'all if you'd like to go out there and take a look at that. But we need to make sure all their plantings are in, things like that, before we issue a final certificate of occupancy. So we're getting them to cross their Ts and dot their Is before we move on with them. But we're very close.
I think people are feeling somewhat better, if you will, that they're not warehouses,
Right, yeah, they will have tenants in them.
Yeah,
Yes.
but not a storage, like warehouses, like
Yeah, it's not, they're not primarily logistics, cross-dock
Right.
warehousing facilities, no. They're gonna have higher value tenants that occupy suites in those buildings.
Feel comfortable about sharing one of those tenants?
I don't know, they told me over the phone that one of the tenants that they were looking for, and I had to send them a zoning verification letter, was for a Tesla facility that would go into one of those, for Tesla semis.
Like a showroom or?
It would actually be a testing facility where they would do final, those Tesla semis, there are only a couple of locations on the East Coast where they do the final fabrication and testing of those. They're built to order, and so they're looking for an Atlanta location. And they would have one of those suites where they'd have between 4 and 6 semis that would be inside there, where they do their lab testing, their programming of those vehicles, and things like that. Those are the types of facilities or tenants that we kind of anticipate coming in. There was one builder showroom that was looking to go into one of the suites, things like that. That's one of them. It's no guarantee that they would come, but that's something that we got an inquiry about.
Other commission comments?
Gonna go on record again. Tell Scott, Dogwood Trail.
We followed up with the county on that. It seems as though that part of the project, I'm not sure if the county just kind of forgot about it, the contract. We're trying to determine if the contract is still valid enough for them to come back. If it's not, it's gonna be on us because, it's our road. So we're gonna just do what needs to be done if that's what it comes to.
Really showing now that all this rain, those shoulders are,
Yeah.
Starting to wear in places. Any other comments, questions from commission? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion for adjournment.
motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.